Today, I'm going to do a deep dive on Mini Royale and show you guys some of the things that more experienced players do so you guys can be the best you possibly can be when you guys jump into your Battle Royale games. So the first thing that you're probably going to want to do before we even jump into any type of movement tech or explaining like the inventory or anything like that, we're going to go into our settings. Specifically the game tab right here. Most of these are preference. The only one that I'm gonna say isn't really preference and I'd say I'd recommend is the grapple right here and put it on toggle. It's just a lot easier to maintain when it's on toggle. And then the next thing that you're gonna want to do, again, most of these are preference. If you want to turn this off and make it to where your player needs to hold down the climb/jump button to start climbing, then you can turn that off. I just like it on to where when I go near a wall, I kind of just grab onto it already. Grapple correction, I would turn this off. If you turn this on, what it's gonna do is when you shoot your grapple, when you point at a direction, say you're not shooting directly at a wall and you can't reach it, it's gonna make your grapple grab onto whatever's closest to what you're pointing at if you can't grab onto what you're pointing at, if that makes sense. So it's just better to have that off and just point at what you want to shoot at. Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the items part of the settings. Because I'm on controller, I need to have this on all because there's not an auto equip button. But if I was on mouse and keyboard, I would have this on none. And what would happen is you walk over an attachment and you just go into your inventory and you right click the attachment while holding the gun and it'll put the attachment on the gun. And it's a lot easier to deal with so you don't have to put a 4 time on an assault rifle for no reason the way that I have to. Auto pickup attachments, I'd leave this on 1. Auto equipped scope and ADS, I'd just leave this off. Auto pickup weapon, I'd leave that on in places where you gotta pick up a gun when you respawn and you already got somebody on you and you gotta pick up a gun quick. Weapons and combat part of the settings, pretty much preference except for the muzzle flash. I would probably put that on hide in first person. This is where it gets pretty important. FOV, I wouldn't leave it on default. But if you're on controller, I probably wouldn't put it at max, just because it's just weird to deal with the smaller models. So I would probably put it at like around what I have, or like 104 or like 106, something like that. But if you're on mouse and key, I'd probably just ramp it up to max, just max it out. Third person FOV, I'd put that on max. 100%, just because when you're in your parachute you're technically in third person, and when it's on 110 you're able to see as much as possible while you're in your parachute. And then this is where it gets really important with the camera shake strength. Default it's on 1. I would 1,000,000% turn that down to 0. There's no reason to have it on 1. There's a ridiculous amount of gun clutter when it's on 1 compared to what it is on 0. Just leave it on 0 and I promise you will be 15 times better leaving it on 0. And then the last thing to talk about, the automatic parachute, I would just turn that off, just because you can pull your parachute a lot later than you can with it on, to be able to try to be as quiet as possible in certain scenarios. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our UI and HUD settings, specifically the crosshairs. I'm going to go through everything else first though, because they're not as important. So if you want to pause the video and copy the stuff, you can. There's damage feedback numbers you can change, UI behavior you can change, the performance, the stuff that you see in the top left up here, you can change that stuff, add more, add less, not have it at all, do whatever you want. Alright, so like I said, now we're going to talk about the crosshair stuff. So I'm just going to go into the firearms part of the crosshairs. So I'm just going to click crosshair editor. You click that and it takes you into this. You can literally do whatever you want with your crosshairs. If you want to make them yellow, orange, red, pink, purple, dark blue, you can literally change anything. If you want to make your crosshair bigger, you can make them bigger and add a gap to it. I like the plus, so I can kind of just point it at where I want. You can make the sides longer. You can make it more thin or more thick, the outline of your crosshair. And yeah, the dynamics, I would probably turn this off, just because it kind of adds like jump to your crosshair when you jump up and down or when you move certain ways, and it's really not needed because there's not much dynamics to this game. Everything's pretty fairly point and shoot straight, so you kind of really don't need dynamics, so I would just turn that off. Then if you want to tweak around with your shotgun ones as well, you just click on game and then click back on UI and HUD, and it resets you back to here. And you click on your crosshair for shotgun. Mine's pretty much the pellet size for the spread size of the shotguns. That's why it's the way that it is. So yeah, now we're going to move on to video settings. Everything in here though is pretty dependent on your PC and what kind of PC you have. If you can turn 3D resolution up to 100% and not have issues with your PC, I would definitely do that. Same thing with view distance and post processing. I would turn them as high as possible. My frame rate is on unlimited because I have a higher end PC that can do that. The only thing in here that I really would honestly talk about is a colorblind mode. Default compared to Tritanope, I would definitely use Tritanope in this game. I don't know why, but this Tritanope on 7 colorblind strength, for whatever reason, for me at least, it helps me see people outside of the zone way easier than it is on normal default. So I kind of just have that on just because it helps me. It might not help you, but if you want to try it, go ahead. Alright, the next thing we're going to talk about is audio settings. You can turn your overall to whatever you want. I just like mine as loud as possible so I can hear people as best as I can. Music, no reason for it, turn it all the way down. Gameplay and ambient, I would turn them all the way up because I'm not so sure what's considered ambient in this game, so I just keep it on. The voice chat volume, turn that down probably because the default's pretty loud. Same thing with procs. But these I would definitely turn down because this is what people complain about a lot. People say the audio in this game is bad, and for them not having a single audio engineer on the roster of developers, the audio is pretty fucking good, I'm not gonna lie. You just have to tweak with it and turn your own and your teammates' sounds down so you can hear everything else, because your own and your teammates' sounds are pretty loud default, so I would turn them down. And then I would turn on 3D headphones as well if it helps you. It definitely helped me. Alright, so now we're going to talk about mouse and keyboard settings and gamepad settings. Now, because I'm not on mouse and key, I really don't have much to say about it, but I will be putting a video of my friend Nibblers' settings on the screen right now before I show you guys my gamepad settings. So what you're looking at right here is Nibblers' keybinds on mouse and key. At any point, if you want to pause the video and copy any of them, please do so. He's probably one of the best mouse and keyboard players in the game, and he's a pretty cool dude. So if you have any questions about anything or how to do anything on mouse and key, since I'll be explaining everything from a controller's perspective today, please ask him because he's really fucking good. He's a lot better than me. So yeah, here's his UI and HUD settings, and then here's even his game settings if you want to pause it at any point. They're all pretty similar to mine, but from a mouse and keyboard player's perspective. He has his FOV on 110, camera shake is on 0, like I told you guys. It's very important to make sure that's on 0. And yeah, shout out to Nibbler for handing me over his settings, and now we're going to talk about my controller settings. Now, I know the controller community of this game is in the minority, so there's probably not a lot of you, so if you want to just skip this part of the video, please do. But for you controller players, I've played this game since last year. I probably have over 1,000 hours of experience of playing this game and tweaking settings. So if you want to pause the video at any time and copy anything that I have on the screen right now, these are all of my controller settings itself. These are the analog cursor for your inventory that we will be talking about later. The most important thing in here though is the advanced gamepad sensitivity. You're going to click edit on it. Up here, your horizontal sensitivity multiplier and your vertical sensitivity multiplier are the most important things in this section. If you need to turn up or turn down your sensitivity, you're probably just pretty much going to be touching this exclusive. Same thing with vertical. If you need to turn your up and down sensitivity down a little bit, you're going to be touching this exclusively. I would keep it on linear. I've tried exponential and dynamic. They don't really feel that much different from linear. I would just leave it on linear. And then these are all your per optic sensitivities. Again, if you want to change anything about your per optic sensitivities, do them only in here. I really wouldn't change much about anything on this page except for your accelerations. If you even want them on, if you want them off, you're just going to click them off. And your cursor as well. These are all preference. If you want to turn it up or turn it down to match your preference, then do so. But yeah, most things you're going to be changing in here are going to be in your advanced gamepad sensitivity settings. Alright, now that we're done talking about settings, we can finally move on to start talking about movement and more techier in-game things you can do so you can compete at a higher level. The first of a few is going to be b-hopping, which is just jumping over and over as soon as you land on the ground. And that's just by doing a simple press of an A on controller for jumping, or whatever your jump button is binded to on keyboard and mouse. Most people will b-hop with their scroll wheel on this game, so it just makes it easier for them to hit a jump action a lot quicker than by pressing like a spacebar action. Alright, the next thing I'm going to talk about is the combat roll, which on mouse and key, the bind you're going to need to press is your jump, your crouch, and your tactical sprint, whatever they're binded to. So what you'll do in game, I will show you on controller and in third person so it's just easier to see. What you'll do is you run forward, you B, and then with the right momentum you press A, literally almost immediately right after. You see how I'm pressing A almost right after I press B? That's to initiate the roll. Because if you do it too late, you just slide, you lose momentum, and then you'll jump afterwards. So you got to do it with the right momentum or you will not roll. This is very important to do though, because headshotting in this game is very important, and once you start getting headshotted, it's pretty much game over for you. So by doing these b-hops like this, where you're b-hopping and you're turning around and you're moving with your b-hops, just so you're not moving straight and you're not getting slammed by headshots, because once you start getting slammed by headshots, I promise you it is game over. So by doing all of these smaller techie things, it makes it as hard as it can be for somebody to hit your head so you can stay alive as long as you possibly can. Alright, next on the list is going to be talking about the Grapple Gun. It is actually going to be your best friend in this game. It is very important. You're going to need to be using it at almost all times because it is literally your movement to get up, get down, and get across the map at almost free will. And plus there's also some pretty techie things that you can do with the Grapple Gun to make your life actually a lot easier, such as being able to cut your grapple at the right time when you know you already have the momentum. So say for example, if I'm going straight up, I'm not going to shoot my grapple and let it go all the way out like that. You see how high I just went up? I don't need to go that high to land on that. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go up, and as soon as I know I have the right momentum, I press A, which is my jump button, which will cancel my grapple, so I don't need to let it keep going out. So if you want to cut it early so you can land on something like that prematurely, or if you want to land like up here for example and you want to land on the ledge smooth, cut it. See how I'm cutting it early? Because if I didn't cut it early right there, what would have happened is this. You don't want to do that in some scenarios. So making sure that you have the right momentum when you cut your grapple early so you can land on things smoothly, like that for example, just to make your life easier, it's very, very important. And there's actually a setting in this game right here. Can cancel grapple with jump input. Make sure that that is on, because when that is on, all you have to do is press your jump button, whatever it's binded to, and it'll cancel your grapple. Okay, the next thing that we're going to end up doing is the grapple b-hop, or some people call it a super jump, Some people call it the Chroma jump because a guy named Chroma F1 who used to play this game a lot, he hasn't really played it recently, but shout out to you, Chroma, for honestly figuring this tech out. He was probably the first person doing it and kind of made it mainstream. So what you'll end up doing is like I just taught you, where you're gonna cut your grapple early once you feel the momentum. Once you feel like in air that you're moving faster than you would be by running on the ground like I am right now, you're gonna cut your grapple, and then as soon as you're about to hit the ground, you're gonna start jumping. So it's gonna look like this. Jump, jump, jump. See how fast I'm moving in between those jumps? Instead of me doing something like this, where I could just grapple, and instead of jumping, see how slow I'm moving off of that if I just want to run off of my grapple? It's not clunky, it's just not as smooth. So when you do it like this, you have so much more momentum. Jump, jump, and you can turn as you're jumping in air, so you can just turn around objects, and it's a very, very useful piece of movement tech in this game that everybody in this game should learn. To further my point on the super jump slash chroma jump, another thing that you can do while doing the super jump slash chroma jump is when you're in air, you can plate. See how I'm plating and how I'm still jumping? That is probably another very big and crucial part of this game and being able to get plates off a lot easier. As you can tell, I need a gold plate. So now, hit my grapple. Right when I break my grapple off, I start my plate. Right when I hit the ground, I start jumping. And I'll show you a little example here as well of me doing it inside of a game where you can see me hit a plate. And you can also see me changing directions and turning around objects as I'm turning around them to get away from people so I don't die. Alright, the last thing that we should probably talk about that's related to the grapple is the Grapple Bounce. It's pretty techy, it's pretty cool. It takes a while to get used to, especially the timing, because you can kind of do it and kind of mess up. But what you'll end up doing is you kind of just look at the ground in front of you a little bit. You don't have to be looking straight down. I mean, sometimes you can, but you don't need to be looking straight down. Just kind of in front of you, and you're going to shoot your grapple at the ground and then press your jump button 2 times. One to cancel your grapple, and the other one is jumping at the same time you shoot the grapple. So I'll show you here now. Just like that. Alright, so the next thing we're going to be talking about is your inventory. So pretty much this is your inventory. You get to it by pressing your tab button or whatever your inventory is binded to. There's a lot of things that you got to pay attention to in your inventory specifically, like pretty much like your scopes, your perks, your free spin that you get, your dog tags up here, your free spins show right here. The free spins are what these things are on the map, so you know what they are. You grab them, you come in here, you click this, and it will give you a spin, and you have a chance of getting red guns. Right there, I just got a gold car. It's probably one of the best guns in the game, if not the best gun in the game. So yeah, like if you want to switch to a different scope, for example, like say I have my car out and I want to switch to a 2-time, right click. If I want to switch back to the 4-time, right click. Now if I want to go to my AK, if I want to put the 2-time on my AK, right click, boom. It's pretty easy to get your scopes on and off on mouse and key. Controller, it's a different story. You can't auto-equip on the gun, so you gotta drag them, and there's a cursor now, so you can at least drag them, but for me it's still just easier to just switch over to mouse real quick and just right click a scope on from controller. Alright, so the next thing we're gonna focus on is perks. There are defensive perks and offensive perks. You'll find them right here inside of your inventory. I've already bought all the perks, so you won't find them. You can get respins by 1 dog tag just by clicking these little things in the middle. You can get them out of your spin as well, but I already have all the perks. You can get red guns as well as gold guns, as well as purple perks or gold perks. I just have all the gold perks, so you won't see the purple perks in here. What I think I'm gonna do here is just scroll over each one of these perks. If you want to pause the video and look at an individual perk and read a description of them, you can. but I'm just really gonna focus on a few of these perks because there's only a couple of these perks that are in this game that are actually super beneficial towards you winning every single game. You don't need every single one of these perks. Now, in my opinion, the most important perk that you should be looking for every single game in particular is Lucky Draw. You'll get 3 extra dog tags per pickup of a coin, so in total you get 4 dog tags at gold, you get 3 dog tags at purple, and you get 2 dog tags at gray. And yeah, this perk is amazing. Every time you pick up dog tags means more chances of rolling for perks, which means more perks. The next perk I'd like to specifically talk about is Defender. It's a damage reduction perk. The higher the rarity, the more damage reduction you get. At gold, you get 10%. I think at purple, you get 7.5, and then gray is 5. I could be wrong about that. Yeah, it's good to have because guns hit hard as hell in this game, especially if the person that's shooting at you is good at hitting headshots. You're going to get mowed down pretty quick, and having this will obviously slow it down a little bit. The last perk specifically I'd really like to talk about in here, I mean there's a couple other that I'll talk about, but the one that I want to really go into detail about is Resilient. This perk is just as good as this perk and as good as this perk. At gold, it's probably the best perk in the game. At gold, you get 6 plates to be carried, and you get a reduction of 30% to be able to pop plates. So it just makes popping plates way quicker. You can hold 6 of them. You turn into a tank. It's pretty nuts. At purple, you get 5 plates. You don't get the reduction though, and then at gray, you get 4 plates. The only other perks that I really want to talk about on this side right now specifically is this perk right here, Researcher, will actually, you'll be able to tank some zone damage, and at end game this perk is pretty useful. I don't really go for it, but if I get it, cool. Same thing with this perk. This perk is only really good at gold though. When you get it at gold, as you can see, you will receive 50% less damage from enemy bullets while in the air after deploying. So when you're in the air with your parachute, it doesn't even matter when you're deploying. It's just when you have your parachute, you take 50% less damage. So this perk and this perk alone is the only perk in the game that will nerf a car headshot that's gold. Car headshot, I believe, is 226. With this perk, it'll do 113 to the head. So you will survive a car headshot to the head with just this perk. Only at gold, though. Alright, now let's talk about some of the offensive perks. There's only really 2 that I really want to dive into. I mean, the other ones are pretty dope, but these ones are the most important ones for an everyday user of any gun on this game. The Grapple perk and the Hipfire perk. This perk is great. At gray it gives you 10%, at purple it gives you 20%, and at gold it gives you 30%. And at gold it also gives you the increased grapple hook range by 10 meters, which is a huge benefit to anybody that uses it, especially if you're going up against somebody that doesn't have the grapple perk at all. If you have the grapple perk and somebody doesn't, the chances of you getting away with the grapple, they're not going to be able to keep up if your grapple keeps cooling down faster than theirs. So the higher the better. Same thing with the Hipfire perk. The higher the better. At gray you get 10%. At purple you get 20%. At gold you get 30%. And at gold you also get Hipfire damage is increased by 5%, which is amazing considering Hipfire is already really good. And then when you have it at gold, it's going to be amazing. Plus you get damage increase. Like, why would you not want that? So yeah, those 2 perks are probably the most important ones. This perk is really good too. You get movement speed by 10%, 30% increase in tactical sprint recovery, but that you don't get tactical sprint recovery anymore. You get an unlimited tactical sprint now. And then the other perks, this perk is really good, especially if you want to pair it with this perk when you're using like a revolver or a TT. You get this perk, pair it with this perk, you got 15% extra damage to your perk, or to your pistol when you're hip firing. Like, that's crazy. Alright, the last thing that we should really honestly talk about before we get up on out of here, I mean, it's a 25+ minute long video, so I appreciate anybody that's still sticking around and watch this whole video. But the last thing we should be talking about, honestly, is probably just like loadout and like what you should be using, and I guess like how you should be playing some type of situations in game. Most guns in this game outside of the shotguns are honestly really good. The TT is surprisingly one of the best guns in the game just because it is a point and click CSGO weapon at the moment. The revolver is somewhat similar to that. Hipfire is really good on it. It hits hard. ADS on it sucks. Italian, don't pick it up. MP34 is good. Hipfire is really good. Bulldog, you can get away with using it, but it's not that great. MP40, it's just as good as the MP34. Same thing hipfire wise, they're just as good as each other. And the M4 and the AK are probably the ones that you're going to want to be picking up most of the time, especially if you're going to be using a car, which I would 1,000,000% suggest using, because the car, especially at gold or red, one shots to the head. So if you get good at car headshots, you can delete people, and it's very satisfying. So I mean, yeah, the car is probably what I'd say is the go-to weapon for anybody, and then pair that either with an AK, an M4, or an MP40, or an MP34, depending on if you plan on getting up in people's faces, or if you plan on kind of staying back and using an AR and a sniper combo. And then when it comes to in-game and like what you should be doing when it comes to like fights, just make sure most engagements are going to be hipfire engagements, unless you're like, I'd say like out there, or like out there to somebody, you're going to be hip firing. Like even right there you can get away with hip fire, but not all the time. I would just literally hip fire and strafe. It's not hard to do. Strafe back and forth, add some crouches into it. Crouch hip fire is a little bit stronger than standing up hip fire. Just yeah, strafe and hip fire is gonna be one of your best friends in this game. You can still ADS if you'd like. ADSing just kind of slows your strafe speed down a little bit. So yeah, like I said, hipfire is going to be one of your best friends in this game. You can kind of get RNG'd by it sometimes, especially because they've added bloom recently to it, but yeah, hipfire is really, really good. Alright, well, that's the end of the video. I appreciate you guys that stopped by and watched this video, especially all 27 plus minutes of it. There's just a lot of intricate things you can do on this game that just make you way better than what this game kind of explains on paper. So yeah, once you start getting it down and getting better and using everything I've said in this video to your advantage, you're gonna get better probably within overnight, maybe a few days. So like and comment, subscribe if you guys like my shit, and yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.